It began with a sound Daniel hadn't heard in months, his phone ringing before dawn. The room was dark, still, the kind of silence that feels like it remembers things you're trying to forget. The screen glowed with an unknown number. For a moment, he simply stared at it, his breath caught somewhere between fear and recognition. 8 months. 8 months since Maya had vanished from his life without a single message, without a goodbye, without a clue. He had told himself he had moved on, buried the worry deep enough that it no longer stung. But this call at this hour cracked something open. The phone vibrated again, harder this time, as if demanding he face what he had avoided. His hand trembled slightly when he answered. "Hello." A woman's voice came through, steady but carrying something he couldn't name. "Mr. Hale? This is Riverside Memorial Hospital." His heartbeat stilled, then quickened so sharply he had to sit up. Hospitals don't call at dawn for good news. "Yes, I'm Daniel." The pause on the other end stretched thin like it was holding back something fragile. "We need you to come in right away," she said gently. "You were listed as the emergency contact for a patient who was admitted tonight." Daniel swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "Who is it?" Another pause, softer this time, as if the truth needed cushioning. "Her name is Maya Lewis." The world tilted. The name he had repeated in silence for months suddenly returned with the force of a tidal wave. Before he could speak, the nurse added, "There are details that must be discussed in person. It's important." The call ended, leaving Daniel in a room that suddenly felt unfamiliar. 8 months of questions, guilt, and hope rose from the shadows. Whatever waited for him at that hospital, one thing was clear. His life had just shifted and there was no going back. The drive to the hospital felt unreal, as if the city had been replaced with a quiet, unfamiliar version of itself. Streetlights blurred across the glass, and every turn seemed heavier than the last. Daniel couldn't escape the swirl of thoughts. Why had Maya listed him? Why now, after disappearing so completely, he began to doubt his own memories of her warmth, her laughter, the way she used to say his name like it meant something. Riverside Memorial's lobby glowed under soft white lights, calm in a way that only made his heart beat louder. A nurse at the desk looked up the moment he entered, as if she had been waiting. "Mr. Hale?" she asked, her voice careful. He nodded. "Please follow me." She walked quickly, her shoes whispering across the floor. Daniel noticed how the hallways grew quieter the farther they went, until the only sound was his own breath. They stopped outside a closed door. Before she opened it, the nurse turned to him. "I know this is overwhelming," she said gently. "But what you're about to see, it might come with questions. We'll explain everything." Her words settled over him like a curtain he wasn't ready to lift. She pushed the door open. Daniel stepped inside, and the sight waiting for him made his chest tighten in a way he had never felt before. Maya lay there, pale, still, and fragile in a way he had never imagined her to be. Machines hummed softly around her, steady yet unsettling. He took one step closer, heart cracking open. 8 months of silence suddenly felt like a secret he wasn't prepared to hear. And then the nurse said something that made the room spin again. "Daniel, there's more you need to know." Daniel's breath caught as he stepped closer to Maya's bed. Seeing her like this felt unreal, her face too pale, her eyelashes barely trembling with each slow breath. She had always carried a brightness with her, a quiet strength that pulled people in. Now she seemed suspended between worlds, held up only by gentle beeping and thin lines of soft light from the monitors. The nurse stood beside him, her eyes warm with something that looked like empathy. "She was brought in a few hours ago," she said softly. "Exhaustion, dehydration, and something else the doctors are still evaluating. But she kept asking for one person." Daniel's voice cracked. "Me?" "She whispered your name before she lost consciousness." The words hit him harder than the shock of the phone call. For 8 months, Maya hadn't reached out, not once. Not even when he begged her friends for clues or sat awake replaying their last conversation. She had vanished so completely he wondered if she had chosen to erase him. But now, lying here, she had given his name to the hospital as if it were the one thread she still trusted. His mind raced with questions he couldn't shape into words. Why had she left? Why had she never called? What had she been carrying all this time? As he stood there, the nurse placed a small envelope in his hand. "We found this in her bag," she said. "It has your name on it." Daniel stared at the handwriting, shaky, hurried, unmistakably hers. His fingers hovered at the seal, fear and hope fighting inside him. Whatever was inside this envelope, he knew it would change everything. And when he opened it, the truth waiting for him was something he never could have guessed. Daniel slid a finger under the edge of the envelope and slowly opened it, afraid the paper inside might crumble from how fragile it felt. The letter was short, written in rushed handwriting, the ink uneven as if every word had cost Maya more strength than she had. He began reading, each line tightening something inside him. Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because I thought it was the only way to protect what mattered. I hoped I'd have the courage to explain someday. If you're reading this, something went wrong. Please trust you were never the reason I ran. I cared more than I admitted, and that scared me more than the truth I was carrying. The truth I was carrying. The words echoed through him, heavy enough to make his legs feel unsteady. He looked at Maya, still unconscious, still fragile, and realized how little he understood about the past 8 months. Whatever she had faced, she had done it alone, believing he was better off without her. A soft knock on the door pulled him from the letter. A doctor stepped inside, her expression calm but thoughtful. Mr. Hale, there's something we need to discuss, she said. It concerns why Maya collapsed and why she listed you as her contact. Daniel folded the letter tightly in his hand, his heart thundering. Please, he said, just tell me what's happening. The doctor hesitated, studying him with quiet consideration, as if gauging how much he could handle in one moment. And then she said something that made everything inside him go still, something that explained the letter, the silence, and the last 8 months in a way he never imagined. Daniel felt the air thicken as the doctor stepped closer, her voice gentle but carrying the weight of something life-altering. Mr. Hale, she began, Maya didn't collapse simply from exhaustion. She has been under significant stress for months, and her body finally reached a point where it couldn't keep up. His grip tightened around the letter. What kind of stress? The doctor's expression softened. She wasn't alone during that time. Daniel's breath stilled. What do you mean? She's been caring for someone, the doctor continued. Someone who depended on her more than she admitted. Someone she was trying to protect. Each word struck him like a quiet, steady drumbeat. His thoughts raced back to the letter, to the phrase the truth I was carrying. He felt the room tilt slightly, reality shifting in a way he couldn't yet grasp. The doctor nodded toward the hallway. There's someone you need to meet. We didn't want to overwhelm you, but this can't wait much longer. Daniel's heart pounded as he followed her out of the room, the corridor feeling narrower with every step. At the end stood a small observation window, warm light glowing softly behind it. The doctor paused, giving him a moment. Before we go in, she said quietly, you should know Maya's decision to keep this hidden wasn't about shutting you out. It was about fear. Fear of losing you, fear of not being enough, fear of what you might say. Daniel swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. Please, just show me. The doctor reached for the door, pushing it open with a slow, careful motion. As Daniel stepped inside, his breath caught, his world pausing in one suspended heartbeat. Because standing on the other side of the room was the truth Maya had carried for 8 months. And nothing could have prepared him for what he saw. Daniel froze in the doorway, his breath caught somewhere between disbelief and recognition. In the quiet room, next to a nurse adjusting a small blanket, stood a child, tiny, wrapped in pale yellow, blinking up with wide, unsure eyes. The nurse stepped aside gently, revealing the small figure more clearly. She's been waiting for someone familiar, the nurse whispered. She kept reaching out when she heard Maya's voice earlier. We think she knows who you are. Daniel's heart thudded painfully, each beat echoing through him like a truth he had never imagined. The doctor spoke softly behind him. Maya cared for her alone. She didn't tell anyone who the father was, but she left your name on every form. His legs felt unsteady, his throat tight. He moved closer, not trusting his breath, barely trusting the ground. The child looked up at him, curious and calm in a way that pierced straight through him. Something in her eyes, something gentle, familiar, made his chest warm with an ache he couldn't name. He knelt slowly, unable to speak, his hands shaking as he reached toward the little girl. She didn't flinch. Instead, she lifted her tiny hand and placed it on his, as if she had been waiting 8 months for this single moment. Daniel's vision blurred. It didn't matter what had happened between him and Maya. It didn't matter how broken the past felt. This child, this quiet, steady heartbeat in the shape of a small human, was the truth Maya had carried alone. A soft voice came from the doorway. Maya, awake at last, weak but watching. I didn't want to lose you, she whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. Daniel turned, the child's hand still resting on his. You didn't lose me, he said, voice shaking and full. You just gave me something I never knew I needed. Maya's eyes filled with emotion, and for the first time in 8 months, hope rose gently between them. And as the morning light touched all 3 of them, it was clear, This was only the beginning of a story none of them expected, but all of them needed.